Hi, and welcome to VTCEE Public Broadcast. I'm your host, Jordan Qualibert. Joining us today are two hardworking students weighing in on our topic. We have Sasha Gazelle and Kevin Sheepherder. Discussing our topic today is sustainability. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. The topic we will be discussing today is sustainability as it pertains to infrastructure projects. The Institute for Sustainable Infrastructure and industry partners have developed the Envision rating system. It is designed to facilitate companies in making much-needed shifts toward sustainable projects. It applies to all types of infrastructure projects and encourages industry professionals to evaluate where improvements can be made in 5 different categories. These categories are quality of life, leadership, resource allocation, natural world, and climate and risk. We will be discussing each, but first let's hear a little bit about the projects we'll be examining. Kevin?
Hi, I studied the Metro Rail extension in Northern Virginia. It's a $2.6 billion extension project on the existing rail line located there, broken up into 2 different phases. The first phase was constructed by Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, who signed on with Dulles Transit Partners for a fixed price of $1.6 billion. And the second phase was $1 billion on a joint venture by Kiewit and Clark Construction. Now, the main goal of these 2 phases of the project is to connect Dulles Airport with DC. So upon the completion of the phase 2, there will be a 1 single seat ride from Dulles Airport all the way to Washington, DC.
The project I studied was the Central Artery and Tunnel Project, which was completed in 2006 in Boston, Massachusetts. You may also know this project by the name of the Big Dig. This project set to solve Boston's traffic issues by replacing the 6-lane elevated highway, which was I-93, also known as the Central Artery, with an 8 to 10 lane tunnel under the city. The existing highway would then be deconstructed, and that space would be turned into a green space that ran through the city. The final cost of the project was $15 billion.
Wow. Okay, our first category we'll be examining is quality of life, which discusses how infrastructure projects affect a community and the well-being of the people in the area. How did your projects correlate to this?
Well, there were both positives and negatives in evaluating quality of life. Over the long term, we feel that there will be more improvement of quality of life due to decreased traffic in a very high traffic area, as well as a decrease in emissions from private vehicles being driven as often. Now, there will be a short-term decrease of life, unfortunately, due to probably some increased traffic from the construction and construction patterns that will change, as well as community aesthetics, as construction sites as a whole do not seem to be very pleasing to the eye.
For my project as a whole, it really improved quality of life in the city. The green space that was put into the city really added beauty, and as well as reducing the traffic and travel times had a great impact on commuters' quality of life.
Great. Our next category that we'll examine is leadership, in which Envision focuses on how collaboration, management, and planning early can lead to sustainable practices. How could this have been shown on your project?
Well, leadership definitely wasn't at a minimum for the rail project. Clark Construction and Kiewit Infrastructure are very highly touted and reputable general contractors that always produce quality products. So leadership was not at a minimum, to say the least. They both strive to keep a high safety culture throughout their company, as well as they incorporate sustainability practices throughout their construction in every phase. So leadership was definitely not at a minimum for the rail project.
For my project, there was a lot of setbacks in the schedule and the cost. That $15 billion was actually about 4 times the planned budget of the project. So I believe if the Big Dig had used Envision's credits as a framework for their leadership decisions and communication, then they could have really reduced those setbacks.
Our next topic would be resource allocation, focusing on reducing material, energy, and water waste. Was this applicable to your project?
Unfortunately, resource allocation was not something that the rail project did incredibly well, and I think this was basically on the size and nature of the project itself. It's a project that is going to require a lot of energy, spanning over 20 plus miles, so it's really hard to limit the energy use, leading to more emissions, things like that. But the one positive is in DC, Northern Virginia area, there are a lot of material manufacturers, so it does limit the transportation aspect, but with a project this size, it was hard to allocate resources in an efficient way.
I would have to say the same thing for the Big Dig. They could have done much better with resource allocation, and to give you just a specific example, they kind of really had unnecessary resources being used. There was a ceiling tile design put in place to achieve a specific ventilation throughout the tunnel, and that design ultimately failed, and a fallen ceiling tile unfortunately killed a car passenger. And then upon investigation of this design, they found out it wasn't actually even necessary, and they spent all that time and money putting in this ceiling that didn't even need to be there, and it was just a total waste of resources. So again, using Envision and maybe paying more attention to those details, it could have helped save the project time and money, and in this case, human life.
Great. The next category we'll examine is the natural world, focusing on how infrastructure impacts the world around us, attempting to create a synergy between infrastructure and the environment. Can this correlate to your project?
Yeah, very luckily this project really didn't have much effect on the natural world. With it being in Northern Virginia, a very industrialized area already, the rail did not kill or eliminate any biodiversity or any environments, things like that. It's already a very concrete style setting. And also there really weren't any big large bodies of water kind of around the area, so contamination into any water sources was also minimized. So the natural world really did not have much of an effect besides the emissions of the project that will correlate with any project.
Very similar, the Big Dig couldn't negatively affect the natural world too much as it was in a city, but it did have that positive effect of the green space that ended up being added at the end of the project.
Great. And the last category we'll examine is climate and risk, addressing how emissions should be minimized and how resilience should be considered in the design of a structure. Was this shown on your projects?
Well, from an emission standpoint, as was said earlier, it was really hard to limit emissions and energy use. There's a lot of large equipment like cranes and other just large, material erectors that use a lot of fuel, and there's really no getting around it. So the efficiency there really wasn't there. But the positive side of using contractors like Clark and Kiewit, they're known for producing very long-term, efficient, quality products. So the resiliency is definitely at a high. I don't see the rail needing any more improvements or renovations after this construction in the near future.
The project, the Big Dig, did help cut down on emissions after construction was over, as far as on the whole for the city, because the reduced travel time and reduced traffic in the city cuts down on emissions. We know that stop and go traffic creates more emissions than moving traffic, and this project helped keep traffic moving and just effectively cut down emissions because of that. It's definitely also more resilient than the elevated highway was as well, because it's less exposed to those natural hazards that could be harmful to an elevated highway versus a tunnel.
Great. Well, there you have it, folks. Using Envision can help bring a much-needed sustainability change in the civil engineering industry. Thank you, Sasha and Kevin, for being here, and thank you for watching. I'm Jordan Koalabear, signing off.